What is up, guys? Axon back with another video today, and today we're doing another Genshin Impact tier list. Now, let me start off by saying that it might be a while till you guys get another tier list because we won't have another 5-star for, I don't know, maybe like next update, because we're getting the new 4-star and we're getting the rerun, right? So we won't be getting, I think, a new character for a while. We'll get like a new 4-star, but I don't want to make a whole tier list video over a 4-star, so this will be a tier list video that I'll have up for a while. So this will be my definitive tier list for a while to the next 5-star, which is Sacramosh, I think. So let's get right into this because, we got a lot of characters to cover, and I really want to talk about Nahida because I have a lot to say about her. And to start off with this tier list, we got to start off with the #1 Archon. We got to start off with the Archon that started it all. The reason why we have the Dendro Archon to even start with Venti, the good old first Archon, our first banner. Venti, a solid 11 to 20 spot, still solid in the game. Obviously, he does have his issues with taller, bigger characters who he can't move by his vortex, but, still a solid character. Next up is Hu Tao. I think we'll kind of all know where Hu Tao belongs. Top 10 easily. Hu Tao is just an amazing character. Next up is Chi-Chi. Now, Chi-Chi, I think she's solid. I think Chi-Chi gets a little more hate than she deserves, but Chi-Chi, an A+ tier character for me. Solid, but, I wouldn't recommend her over a lot of healers. Next up is Goro. Now, recently, I've been playing Goro a lot, and I would want him to have him to the 11-20 spot. I was thinking about it. Should I put him through 11 through 20 spot? Because, recently I've been playing him, and he's just so useful. In his niche, he's amazing. But there's a lot of characters who belong in the 11 through 20 spot, so I'll hold off from putting Goro through that spot because it might just be my personal bias making Goro not be able to being in the 11 through 20 spot. Next up, Sucrose, easy 11 through 20 spot. Not really much to be said. Good elemental mastery, good CC. Being animal just makes you one of the best characters in the game because you have an animal artifact that's godly. Next up is Raiden. Now Raiden, the Electro Archon, easily top 10 character for me. And disclaimer, I know I'm kind of a little bit in the video, but for the people who always wonder, let's say I have Venti above Sucrose. That does not mean I believe Sucrose is above Venti. Just as a quick disclaimer, because I always get those comments, and I know the real ones who watch my tier list know that. But there's some people who are new, and there's some people who don't really watch this part, or who or just skip to see where the character they like is at. But for the newer people, because I always know I have newer viewers on these videos, just because you see Venti ahead of Sucrose does not mean Venti's better than Sucrose, or I believe Sucrose is worse. I just don't have enough time to tier rank these videos, right? So let's say I have Raiden in front of Hu Tao. That does not mean I think Hu Tao is worse than Raiden. Obviously, in this instance, I do think Raiden's better than Hu Tao. But in this instance, right, let's say I have Hu Tao ahead of Raiden. I do not think Hu Tao's better than Raiden. I just don't have enough time to really order these videos because these videos are already like 30 minutes long, and I do not want to make them an hour long. So if you want to decide where these guys rank in the tiers, you can guys decide that in comments, but for right now I'm just putting them in the tiers. Xiangling, another top 10 character in the game, a really great character. I cannot see an argument where people don't see how good she is. Xiangling, amazing character. I love her. She fits on so many good teams. I don't understand why I still get comments saying Xiangling, she's not that good. She's like an A tier, B+ tier character in the lower end. I don't understand that. Aloy, easily one of the worst character, or even the worst character in the game. Not even debatable, because at least Amber, there's like some situations you can use her. I do not think of a single one, not even the single situation I'd ever use Aloy. Next up is Yae Miko. Yae Miko is an S tier. I always know I get hate on Yae Miko, but Yae Miko's solid. But with the I just can't put her any higher with so many great characters being in 11 through 20 spot. I think Yae Miko is definitely a contender, and in some opinion, she can be 11 through 20 spot. For me, there's just so many great characters where I just like a little bit better than Yae Miko. Next up is Razor. Razor, an S- character. Razor solid, but at a certain point, if you're not Eula and you're still doing physical damage, not working out the best for you. Next up is the Traveler. Now, when I rank the Traveler, I rank like pretty much just in general the Traveler. Let's just rank the Travelers in all of us. What's it called? 3 elements. So Animal, I think Animal is like A+ tier. Dendro, I think is S-, and I think Geo's like A tier. So I'll put him at the highest tier, which is Dendro, which is S-, and I don't think he'll be here for that long because we're getting in the future some good Dendro characters, and we're already seeing an instance with a new Dendro Archon where the Traveler is getting less and less valued. Next up is Childe. Childe, I'd obviously put the 11 to 20 spot. Childe's such a great character to have, such a good enabler. Obviously, he does have some of his flaws, but mainly his cooldown with his E. But Childe, a great character, easy 11 to 20 spot, and pretty much another version of Childe, Itto, who is kind of like Childe, but is not as good in enabling, but can do more damage in some instances. I would put him in the same tier. I think Childe is a little bit better, but they're not that far off from each other. You can make a case for Itto being better in some teams than other teams, but I'd prefer Childe most of the time, but I don't think they're that far apart. Next up is Mona. Mona, where would I even put Mona? Mona, I'm thinking S tier for now. I'm not too sure because there's some characters who are definitely going through 11 to 20 spot, and there might be a character who will bump up or bump down from top 10. Next up is Thoma. Thoma's an easy S tier for me. Thoma's great with Dendro teams when you just need a power plier. So Thoma, a great character. He's in his niche, he's super good, and so far I think Thoma's getting the love he deserves with all these new Dendro characters coming out. Next up is Eula. 11 through 20 spot for me. I still get hate on this. Eula's just so good. I think it's just people underestimate Eula because they don't use her, but I promise you, if you use Eula, if you're a Eula user, you understand how good she is. But maybe you might want to argue that maybe she's at the lower end of 11 through 20 spot, but in my opinion, she will always be 11 through 20 spot for me. And it might be a little bit biased because I use her so much, but I've used her and she clears all the content for me. And for a person who has a lot of DPS characters, Eula stands out the most because she does so much damage, but her only weakness is that she does physical damage. So there's certain enemies that she can't fight against. Next up is Xingqiu. Xingqiu, easy top 10 character, one of the best hydro appliers in the game, off-field hydro applier. So Xingqiu, easy top 10 for me. Next up is kujou Sara. Kujou Sara is like an S-, and I got this comment last time. I forgot exactly who the name of the comment was, but he asked me, is C3 Sara good, right? I think C3 Sara is good, right? C3 Sara, in my opinion, is an S- character. I'm just saying, if we have her C6, she's probably maybe an S tier, arguably 11 through 20 spot for me. But I really don't like to rank characters on like a C6 because if you have all your characters at C6, you don't really need my opinion, do you? You're just pretty much broken at that point, right? Any character you use is pretty much broken. So I really like to rank these 5 stars at C0 and like the 4 stars more like at C6 range, where like if you play in this game long enough and you're at the end game type of area, you probably have like a lot of these characters like C3. Maybe you have some C6, but most of these characters might have like a couple constellations with them. So kujou Sara is good. I just think she has a couple flaws with her. Tighnari, S tier for me. Tighnari might be my favorite DPS character in the game. I love using Tighnari. He's one of my favorite characters in the game, right? Obviously, he might not be as good as someone like a Eula, someone like a Raiden, but Tighnari, an amazing character to use. I would argue on fun aspect alone, he's a top 10 character for me. Next up is Ningguang. Ningguang is an S- tier. Her weakness is being Geo, which is kind of sad. But other than that, Ningguang pretty solid. Bennett's an easy top 10. Now, there was a comment recently in my last tier list video, what's it called, where someone said Bennett should be on his own tier, like he should be a tier above. Now, what I have to say for that is like, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Bennett works on every single team. Any team you put him on, he's a great option. I just don't think, like, yes, he's a great option, but like, I don't know if he's like his own tier worthy of the best character. I do think, in my opinion, he's probably the best character in the game. I know it's kind of arguable because you can obviously put like a Raiden or like a Kazuha or whoever you might consider number 1. But Bennett, just because he's universally good on every team, obviously I would have him number 1. But I don't know if he's like a tier above everyone else in top 10. That's just my opinion. Next up is Kaya. Kaya is an S- character. I think he's solid, but there's just better Kaya characters who can do what he does. Next up is Nilou. Now, before my last tier list, I had Nilou at S- tier. Now, my biggest gripe with her was that she just didn't have good supports. Like, there was no good support for her yet. But we got that support. We got the support, the Dendro Archon, right? Because the whole point with Nilou is that she didn't really have like a Dendro character, and really a lot of these Sumeru characters needed a really good Dendro character to actually do what they do at such an elite level. So I think Nilou is deserving to bump up to an S tier for me. So before she was an S-, arguably S tier, but I think right now she's solidified in S tier. I don't know where in S tier, probably in the lower end for me, but now in S tier for me now, because now we have Nahida to actually give her a good Dendro umpire, because that's what she's been desperately needing, because she did not have good supports, and Nahida definitely helps out with her with that. Eugen, S minus tier, solid, but she's just in a niche, you know. If you don't have a lot of normal attacking characters, she's really not that good. But when you do have those normal attacking characters, you might think she's one of the best characters in the game, right? Kazuha, easy top 10, really not have too much to say. I think he's the best animo character in the game. Arguably, a lot of people like to say Sucrose competes with Kazuha, but for me, Kazuha kind of does what Sucrose does, but just better, in my opinion. Next up is Klee. Klee's an S minus. Klee's just, to me, clunky and a bit outdated. Her damage numbers are not that outdated, but I just think she's kind of outdated when it comes to making her small, because making a small character who's a DPS just not the best, and she's a catalyst user. There's just issues that make her kind of clunky with her gameplay. Next up is Xiao. Xiao's an S tier. The only really gripe that I have with him, he definitely has the damage. He definitely has kind of the teams to make him the 11 through 20 spot, but he's just missing the supports, in my opinion. He's just missing supports to make him do that 11 through 20 spot. He definitely has the damage, but he just does not have the supports. Barbara, A+, I think she's just kind of the same level of a Chi-Chi. She kind of makes up for it with her constellations, and that's pretty much it. Jean, S tier. I'm actually thinking about, like, bumping down Jean in a bit, because I'm trying to think, right, like, I can't even think of a situation nowadays where I'd actually use Jean, maybe on a Zhao team, but it's getting at a point where I can't even think of a good reason why I might use Jean. Sorry to all the Jean lovers, but maybe at this end of the series, I might have Jean bumped down to S minus, because it used to be, Jean used to be on the top tiers, but it's looking kind of down bad for her with so many good healers in the game, where I'm just like, do I really need an animo character like Jean for a healer? But that's just my opinion. Maybe she might stay there, maybe not. But it's not looking good in the future, where I don't think Jean will stay in these top tiers for that long. Next up is the lawyer Better Call Saul as a girl in Genshin. She's an S minus. I think she's kind of the same level of Klee. Maybe if you get a couple constellations, you can make her better than Klee, in my opinion. Next up is Ayaka. Ayaka, easy top 10. Probably one of the best characters in the game. So Ayaka, top 10 character for me, arguably one of the best main damage dealers in the game. Next up is Beidou. Beidou's S tier, especially with all these Dendro characters coming out. She's definitely been improving a lot. So Beidou, S tier. She's just like pretty much the embodiment of just a solid S tier. But you know, I just can't bump her up to 11 to 20 spot. Maybe in the future when we get more Dendro characters who need off-field constant electro damage, maybe I can see it. Next up is Diluc. Diluc is an S minus, you know, definition of outdated, but still solid. Diluc is just, he's solid, just outdated pretty much, right? Next up is Cyno. Now, Cyno, in case you guys don't know, Cyno is my favorite character in Genshin Impact, right? I love using him. I spent 16,000 Primos videos, Primos on his banner. You can watch my summoning video. It was insane. I spent so much money on that banner. It wasn't crazy. It was the most money I've ever spent on pulling for a character. But Cyno, I love him, right? In a situation, maybe in the future, I have fully not planned it out. I will make hopefully a Genshin video where I combine the pure power of Cyno and the Dendro Archon together to make a great team. But right now, my Dendro Archon, she is fully built. I have done a lot of testing with her, but her artifacts are not the best, right? I do not have the best artifacts. So my Cyno and Dendro Archon team is not fully built, and I haven't really tested it that much. But there's a situation where I might see Cyno in the 11 to 20 spot, but for right now, he's an S tier. But with this new Dendro Archon and maybe future supports, he might make his way up to 11 through 20 spot, because he is just that good. He's just kind of he just kind of has some flaws. Maybe if we get Cyno gets his own artifact, that would be amazing. If we get his own artifact, he would probably bump up to 11 to 20 spot. But he's missing his own artifact, right? And maybe if we just got like another good support for him, I think would be fine. So Cyno definitely have the capability to go through 11 to 20 spot, but he's just missing a couple of things. Sayu, A+ tier for me. Besides traveling, I really wouldn't recommend Sayu. Candace, same thing. Candace, just like, I really wouldn't recommend her. She's just like a jack of all trades, but like none of the things she does particularly good, and that's not really good for a support when you kind of just have a support to do like one thing, is to support the main character. And if this character can kind of sub DBS, kind of do a little off-field damage, and kind of do her own damage, like particularly not that good of a support in my opinion. The only one who can kind of do that and do it well is kind of like a Noel. Next up is Zhongli. Zhongli, I'd put him in top 10. He's definitely a character I still believe he was a top 10. I know I'll always have those comments arguing about he's not a top 10 anymore and all that, yada yada yada. To me, he's still a top 10. He's a great at what he does, and if he's the best at what he does, why is he not a top 10 character? Answer that for me. If he's the best at what he does, I'd have a top 10. There's only like a certain situations where like Eugen, she is the best at what she does, but I don't think she's as good as what Zhongli does at his niche. Next up is Kuki. Now, Kuki might be the reason why I might bump down Jean. Kuki, an amazing character. Arguably, I want to put her in S, but is she good enough to be S tier? I'm not too sure, right? Because I'm thinking about S tier, right? If I put Kuki in S tier, does it make sense? To me, it does. But then I look at Jean, right? I look at Jean, I go look back at Jean, the other healer in the S tier. Do I think Kuki is better than Jean? In my opinion, right now, I kind of do. I kind of do think she's better than Jean. Do I want to bump Jean down for that? I'm not too sure, but I'm gonna put Kuki in the S tier, and I don't know if I want to keep Jean, because Kuki far and away in this update, for the 4 stars that have like exceeded my expectations, Kuki had slowly built her way up with these new Dendro characters, but I think having Nahida now just makes her like solidified as one of the best support healers in the game, with be able to do like electro damage and being a healer, and her ultimate is like a constant electro damage. She's just so great. It's kind of hard not to think she's better than Jean at this point, but you know, I'll have my decision of where I might want to put Jean at the end of the video. Next up is Ganyu. I kind of want to hold off with Ganyu in a bit, because Ganyu I have a lot to say about her, because there might be a character who might take her spot. Next up is Lisa. Lisa's an A tier, just a character who's solid, but I never recommend over a lot of electro characters. Yelen's a top 10 character for me. She's really good. Not really much to be said. She's just kind of like Xingqiu, but a 5-star, but you know, kind of does a little bit things different. Next up is Albedo. Albedo is an S tier for me. Now, like when I put Albedo, I would really like to see 2 lines of characters. You know, that's just maybe my preference, but I don't like to see such a like over heavily stated tier like this. That's why I might want to bump down Jean, if you know what I'm saying. But you know, we'll keep it like that. But Jean, you might have to get out of here, but you know, we'll talk about that in the future. Next up, Diona. S tier for me, solid, one of the best healers in the game, and she gives shield, she does cryo, she does so much good stuff. And then I look at Jean, I'm like, Jean, do you really belong here? I don't know, Mr. White, seems kind of sus. Next up, Kaching. Kaching is like S tier as well. Man, I have so many characters in S tier. I don't know if I want to keep it like this. I'll see in the end of the video, because there's so many characters in S tier. Next up is Kokomi, but I don't want to say that's a bad thing, right? Because right now there's so many great characters in Genshin. I think it's kind of crazy. Next up is Kokomi, 11 through 20 spot. She's solid, but you know, I just think she has some flaws that can prevent her from being top 10. Next up is Noelle. Noelle, I'd put her also S tier. Man, this S tier is kind of getting crowded, not gonna lie. S tier is just super crowded, but there's just so many great characters in the game. It's like I can't make this all one row. Fischl, 11 to 20 spot. Man, Fischl is another character I would bump up to top 10. But there's this, everyone in top 10 is just people want to keep. Fischl is probably like, when I look at through 11 to 20 spot right now, Fischl is kind of the one who has the potential to be in the top 10 spot in the future out of the 11 to 20 characters right now. Because Fischl, the more Dendro characters that come out, the more I value everyone more. But right now, I'll keep her 11 to 20 spot. Changyeon, A tier for me, kind of the same flaws with Lisa. He's solid. Maybe you might want to pull him out for like a best heroes, but other than that, I would not recommend him over a lot of crowd characters. Next up, Rosaria, S tier as well, super solid. Nothing really to say about her. She's really good at what she does. Gives you great rate to all your teams, and you know, gives you some constant crowd damage. Arataki Itto, 11 through 20 spot for me. Arataki is so good. The best dual damage dealer in the game. Super good, super solid. I cannot think of any complaints with him except that, you know, he's kind of missing some supports to help him out. Amber, obviously B plus tier, you know, the worst tier in the game. One of the worst characters. I don't think she's as bad as Aloy, but, you know, she's pretty much down there. Next up is Shanna. Shanna is also S tier. Shanna pretty solid, but just like kind of a weird investment because like I don't know if my biggest gripe with Shanna is that she's a 5-star, and I think like maybe she's a 4-star should be a little bit better because I wouldn't really recommend pulling out of Shanna unless like you've already pulled every single character you want and you have all your teams solidified and maybe you just want to improve your teams. Shanna will be good for like a Ayaka team or Eula team, but like most of the time I do not recommend pulling Shanna because you can like use a Rosaria, you can use some of these other characters kind of fill her role because Shanna investing in a 5-star support is kind of crazy unless like there's such a broken support like a Yellen. Next up is Colleen put her like A plus here. She's like solid, but so many better Dendro characters. Well, only 2 better Dendro support heroes, but I think the Traveler's better, and I obviously think Dendro Archon's better. Next up is Dori. It's surprising how Kuki has jumped up this ranking, and Dori has solidified herself as being just an underwhelming character. Like, obviously you think she'd bump up, but I just can't think of a situation where I recommend Dori over Kuki. Even though she's like a free support right now, like I would just never recommend her. Just use Kuki. She's just better. Yomiya, 11 through 20 spot, pretty solid, pretty good. Nothing really much to say about her. She's good at what she does, and what she does is pretty good, which is single target DPS. Henzo's an A plus tier for me. A character kind of like Sayu is like, you're really good, but like I'd recommend like a Sucrose over you most of the time, right? Next up is Xingqiu, and Xingqiu is a B plus tier, one of the worst characters in the game. I wish she was better. I love her character design, I love her playstyle, but just underwhelming at that point. Next up is the final 2. Now, this video is going to be a little shorter than usual, but you know, it's because I have to talk about these. Not really much Ganyu, but now I don't really have much to say about Ganyu because we kind of know where Ganyu is, but I just have to build up the suspense because, you know, there's a spot for a top 10 character and there's a spot for 11 to 20 character, and if I think anyone's going to be bumped down from top 10 character, for me, it's either maybe a Zhongli or maybe a Ganyu, right? And I'm choosing Ganyu, who's on the chopping block, right? This is the chopping block. It's like Chop, the cooking show, right? So one character out of these 2 is going to go to 11 through 20, and one's going to go to top 10. And I don't really want to talk about Ganyu, so I'll be talking about the Dendro Archon, Nahida. Now, Nahida, the best Dendro character in the game, right? Easily the best Dendro character in the game. Not even really much of a debate because who's her competition? Like Dendro Archon Traveler, the only other competition she kind of has as being a Dendro character is Tighnari, but Tighnari is like a DPS, not really much of support. But she's the best header game, right? She is the best Dendro support easily. So where would I have her rank? First, let's talk about all of her stuff. Let me start off with the negatives. I always start off with the negatives with these characters. So Nahida, what are her negatives? One, she's small, right? The greatest weakness to a lot of these characters is being small, makes her gameplay kind of clunky as a DPS. Now, if you want to talk about her as DPS, some people use it, some people don't, but you know, I still got to talk about it. She can be used as DPS. Would I recommend her as DPS? Maybe in some situations if you want to use like a Beto or something like that, but most of the times I see her more as a support. For like a character like Cyno, someone for like Nilou, some other characters as well, but more as a support. Talking about her flaws, she doesn't really have any, right? I can't really think of any flaws that she necessarily has, whether other just being like small and just quite not having the quite DPS to like make them like a top tier, because she doesn't really have a top tier DPS that I can think of, right? Obviously she has a Cyno, which, you know, I wouldn't say he's like top tier DPS, but if you look at the top 10, Raiden works. Not really anyone here. It's mainly like the S tier characters, like maybe a Yaimiko, a Cyno, a Nilou. These are top tier, so she's just obviously missing some DPS to fully utilize her. But she's a great support, can be used as DPS if you want her to. Her elemental skill really good, right? Just be able to, you know, square up people and, you know, apply Dendro, and then her ult is able to, like, the certain character limits characters you have obviously gives you like either like elemental mastery, a cooldown on like her ult and all that good stuff. So with that being said, she's the best in her situation, right? So she's the best Dendro support. Maybe compatible with Tighnari when it comes to like a Dendro DPS, but you know, they're kind of like two different DPS. She's more of like a DPS and like as an enabler, kind of like more of a Yaimiko DPS, except for without the damage. But if I was supposed to rank her, I put her top 10, right? I put her top 10, and I put Ganyu 11 to 20. It's my first time ever bumping down Ganyu, because Ganyu is like a character I've always stapled as one of a top 10 character, and right now I think she bumps down to 11 to 20 spot, mainly because I think Ayaka's just better than Ganyu, and the only other character I'd bring down from top 10, if we're talking about who we could bring down from top 10 so Nahida can take that place, it's either Zhongli or Ganyu for me. Those are the only two characters I could ever see bringing down. Maybe you want to throw up like a Hu-Tao, because, you know, she's not really like popping off in the recent Spiral Abysses, but, you know, because she's mainly like a single target damage dealer, and like now with the Spiral Abyss we need to like a lot of characters who can do like crowd damage. But if you want to talk about Hu-Tao, you can talk about Hu-Tao, or you want to talk about Zhongli, or you want to talk about, those are really two characters I can see, right? I only see like three characters who I can really bring down. It's a Hu-Tao, Zhongli, or Ganyu, and I chose to bring down Ganyu. You can give me hate for all the Ganyu lovers, but I think I'm bringing down Ganyu to bring up Nahida, right? Where I think she belongs in the top 10, not gonna lie, I think she might belong in the lower tier, just because she doesn't really have the DPS to fully utilize her. She's such a great character, but we don't have a great character to kind of like match her in a way. All right, we don't have like a DPS who's like, oh, Nahida is her best support, and when they're like together, they're like one of the best combo duos in the game. We don't really quite have that yet. So Nahida definitely has a way to work up to the top 10, like the topper tiers of top 10, like to be at the high end. But I think she's probably in the bottom half for me right now, like in the bottom 5 through 10 spots for me. But Nahida great. Ganyu out to bump down, sadly, because, you know, someone has to take this place. For me, it's Ganyu. You can tell me down in the comments who you think should be brought down in the top 10 for someone like a Nahida, or you think maybe someone else should be brought down, or like maybe someone should be bumped up. I don't know how you want to do it, but for me, Nahida goes top 10, just because, just like how I like to argue that Zhongli is the best at what he does. And, you know, if he's the best at what he does, how can he not be a top 10 character? I kind of like to think about Nahida as well. But I think I like Nahida a little more than Zhongli. I think Nahida brings more value than Zhongli on certain teams. Obviously, you can argue that Zhongli does so much better stuff than Nahida. But for me, I love Nahida. She's the best at what she does. And she's only going to improve from here. So, love her in general. She's such a great character. I highly recommend her. You know, her banner's going to end soon. So, when I'm uploading it, she might have like a couple of days left. Highly recommend pulling for her. Maybe when the rerun comes up, highly recommend pulling for her. She will only get better in the future. I think right now she's going to be like viewed as a Raiden, right? Where when Raiden first came out, she was good, she was solid. Probably maybe like for me, when I ranked her, she was top 10 character in the game, right? I was one of the few people who got a lot of backlash for that, because I ranked her top 10. People were like, she's not that good, she's at the lower end of the 5 stars, she's one of the worst 5 stars. Your rating got crazy hate. And I think Nilou probably doesn't have as much hate, but just not as much love yet, right? A lot of people are not like not to say like, because there's a lot of videos who people are saying, oh yeah, she's super good, right? Obviously she's super good. I just don't think people know how good she is yet, right now. Top 10 easy character for me, but, you know, I think in the future she will build up her way to like top 5 in the future, right? So that's where I have my characters ranked. You can talk to me about what you think about Nahida, what do you think about the Dendro Archon, what do you think she ranks, and where do you think maybe she's too high or maybe she's too low for you guys. I don't know where you guys think, but let me know where you rank the Dendro Archon in the comments down below. And what do you guys think? So, what do you think of these characters' placement? Not too much has changed from the last tier list, but, you know, there's some characters who I think might fall off, like characters like Jean, who I think might in the future might not be in these top tier spots. I think she might be kind of not necessarily being outdated, but just not really utilized as much, because her skill set is kind of being surpassed by certain other healers who we really need these other elements instead of like an animo healer. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How do you think the Dendro Archon shifts the meta? How do you think she will rank in the future? Do you think she'll get higher? Do you think she'll get lower? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments down below. And make sure to watch my other video with I talk about Ash Ketchum, because that's a great video. And you know, I totally real cried. I totally didn't fake cry in that video. I totally didn't put some water on my eyes. But besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to go watch my Ash Ketchum video. I loved making it. I thought it was hilarious, and I hope you guys will enjoy that video. In the meantime, before I make my newest video, which I will be hyped to make. I hope to see you guys next time. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave all the good stuff. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Later, hater. See ya.